When I used to go to school, took gymnasium by the latest rule. Oh, gym's too much for me.
I hear you talking.
Gym's too much for me.
Can't you take it?
I like my gym, but gym's too much for me. When I have it, I can hardly talk. When I take it, I can hardly walk. Oh, gym's too much for me. Gym's too much for me. I like my gym, but the thing's too much for me.
Now you like your English and your grammar too.
To take that gym won't never do. Oh, gym's too much for me.
Can't you take it?
Gym's too much for me.
You better take it.
I like my gym, but gym's too much for me.
Now you ain't no baby, I can see.
But that gym's too much for me. Oh, gym's too much for me. Gym's too much for me. I like my gym, but gym's too much for me. I can do my work, I can take my swim. Have to get drunk to take my gym, 'cause gym's too much for me.
Taking liquor.
Gym's too much for me. I like my gym, but the thing's too much for me.
Now you're big and strong, it ain't no doubt.
Gym hurts me, so I cut it out. Oh, gym's too much for me.
I hear you talking.
Gym's too much for me.
I hear you screaming.
I like my gym, but gym's too much for me. Listen here, folks, won't you hear my call? You want gym, you can have it all, 'cause gym's too much for me.
I hear you talking.
Gym's too much for me.
Now can't you take it?
I like gym, but the thing's too